Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Today I am excited to discuss the final book of the Faithful and the Fallen series, Wrath by Gwynne. This series has been a bit of a trial to get through, but I had all the books. I refused to let my money go to waste, and I'm happy to say that I finally made it to the end of it, and I can give my unadulterated thoughts on this series. So first of all, what is Wrath about? Where does it kind of stand? So after the events of Ruin, which for me is definitely my favorite book of the series, we're in a bit of a rough place. Like the castle of Dressel, where Corbin and his warband basically took residence, was invaded by Nathir and the denizens of Azoth. Corbin himself, he was forced to confront a pretty terrifying truth about his place in this unfolding God War, and he, as a result of that, like, he kind of struck out on his own just to spend some time being alone. And as luck would have it, he was captured by giants, who and now, given this whole situation with Dressel overrun, his warband effectively scattered, and that kind of thing, he's kind of at the mercy of these giants, and the God War is rapidly approaching. With the capture of Dressel, Nathir now has nearly all of the seven. I think he has like 5 of the 7 Starstone objects, so he's pretty close to creating the portal or whatever it is that's needed for Azoth to basically come into the world in flesh, in his own flesh. And at which point the God War is pretty effective. It's been effectively lost for the forces of Elior and that. So it's a pretty dire situation, and yeah, that's kind of it. So what did I like about this book? This is going to be a short section because there's not much I like about this series in general. There are some things, yeah, but as always, like, the standouts are just the battle sequences. And as the finale of the series, I don't need to tell you about the battle sequences. You can imagine in this book. Like, it was just, in that regard, it was just a rip-roaring adventure. Unfortunately, I don't enjoy it as much as I typically would these kind of scenes, for the simple fact that I just didn't care about these characters and the story in general. And the other thing that I liked about the book, or I appreciated, I should say, is that once again, like, just the constant stream of deaths that crop up over the course of these books, it helped to tighten the focus a bit, which I think these books only benefited from. So we got a bit more character focus as a result, and that worked for the benefit of the story, because by the time things really got to a head, like, I had enough screen time with these characters that even though I didn't necessarily care what happened with them, like, I was at least able to distinguish them, which is pretty significant, because, like, it's been a few days now since I finished reading Wrath, and thinking back on this series, the entire thing is pretty much an indistinguishable blob. It's an indistinguishable blob in my brain. Like, it's a book. It's a series with a lot of great concepts, but a lot of poor execution. As before, pretty much the only thing that Gwynne has going for him is the fact that he writes amazing battle sequences. Nothing else about these books really stand out. So yeah, that's kind of it. Like, now that I've finally finished Wrath, I can safely say that this series is extremely overhyped. Even given my biases and my personal preferences, there isn't a lot to recommend here. Like, it's not, the world building isn't particularly fascinating. The character work isn't exactly new or original. These are very stock tropes. Like, the only thing that these books really excel at are the action sequences. And if you're if you're a fantasy reader who pretty much is only interested in action sequences, then these are the books for you. By far the vast majority of these books are battle sequences, because that's what John Gwynne apparently knows best. So that's what he wrote mostly. Yeah, other than that, it's like a very basic take. It's a very basic it's a very basic inspired world, Norse inspired world. Like, it doesn't get creative or unique in the way that it approaches things. Like, and before people jump on me, like, there are books that take the exact same source material and handle things very creatively. If you want to know what I'm talking about, please refer to Paul Anderson's The Broken Sword or Harry Harrison's The Hammer and the Cross series, and you'll get an idea of how inventive you can take what seems to be very tired, very stock tropes and scenarios where it comes to the whole Norse thing, and create very interesting stories out of them. So yeah, like, the characters aren't particularly interesting. The story is pretty much straightforward. There's no like major plot twist or so. That was actually one of my major gripes with Wrath, in that one of the more significant events in Ruin that really helped me actually start to care about these books, it pretty much immediately reversed, which sucked. And then, yeah, that I think that's all I gotta say about the series. Like, I can see the appeal. It's just that these books are clearly not for me. And even ignoring my biases, setting aside my biases, because once I pay for a book and I have it and I'm trying to read it, I do try my utmost hardest to enjoy it as much as I can. I'm not someone who likes to DNF stuff, so I try to and that's why I generally give very positive takes on the books I read, because, like, if I'm gonna invest the time and energy into reading something, I want to enjoy it. So I did try very hard to enjoy these 4 books. I adhered to the standard epic fantasy fan comments of, oh, it gets good at book X, and I did that. I was told it got good at the second book. I read the second book. I was told it got good at the third book of 4. I read the third book. It did get a bit good at the third book, but then, like I said, one of the main moments that captured me in the third book was almost immediately undone in the fourth book. So it is what it is. Overall, I don't get it. I truly don't get it. Like, I don't get what the hype is about this series. I guess it's good. I guess it has its appeal for some people, but it's extremely overhyped. As I said right from the get-go, during when I talked about Malice, like, I was very aware of Malice when it was first being published, and you know, there was like a lot of buzz leading up to its release, and when it was released, like, you had the typical scenario with bloggers just singing praises in waves, and not even half a year later, pretty much no one cared about the book, and it's kind of languished in the background since. 2 years on, only fans pretty much cared about this series, and then almost like 10-12 years later down the line, I joined booktube, and somehow this series is being paraded around as one of the best of fantasy. It didn't make any sense, and reading it now that I've actually read it and experienced it for myself, that feeling, that opinion is just reinforced. I don't get it. I just don't get it. And it's not the case where, like, I entered this biased, because I have read books that I entered biased, and they were able to capture my imagination, entertain me, and change my opinions. I'm not someone who, just because I have a less than positive opinion of something before I read it, it means that at the end of it, like, it means that's going to color my perception. I enter books with a very open mind. case in point, The Sword of Kaiken. I expected that book to be crap. Instead, it's probably one of my all-time favorite epic fantasy novels now. Yeah, so what else can I say? But it is what it is. Like, if you're a fan of action sequences, this is a series for you. Other than that, don't waste your time. It's overhyped. I don't get the appeal. And that's all I have to say about Wrath and the Faithful and the Fallen series in general. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.